So we're looking at the stock valuation, right? And as the name says, it's a method of how to value stock. How to get how much a stock is worth. Right? Different ways to do it. I'll show you the three ways. FIFO, LIFO, and AVCO. And if you don't know how to do it, you heard the names before. Am I
Yeah.
correct? You heard FIFO, LIFO, and AVCO before?
Yeah.
FIFO stands for first in, first out. So the first set of goods to come in the company is the first set of goods to go out the company. And I'll show you what that means. LIFO means last in, first out. And AVCO means average cost, right? So let's look at FIFO first. The first set of goods to come in is the first set of goods we're selling. If you notice, whenever we purchase goods in this example here, you see them have different prices. You see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So when we sell goods, this is our method to see which goods we have remaining after we sell them. Do we have goods that were valued at $6 per unit? Goods that were valued at $6.50 per unit? Or goods valued at $7? If we know that, then we could tell how much the goods are worth. Let's practice it to see if we can get a better understanding, right? So they say on the 1st of Jan, we had an opening balance of 50 units at $5 per unit. So on the 1st of Jan, our balance, what we had 50 units at $5 per unit. So that total value would be how much? How will we calculate it?
50 multiplied by 5.
50 multiplied by 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is 250. Boom. So that's how we'd start off. Then you put a line underneath. Now the 8, we purchase 100 units at $6 per unit. So on the receipts, because receipts will be when we receive stuff, right? And if we purchase goods, we receive any goods. I'll record the 50 units at $6.50 per unit. So the total value would be, just like what you did just now, 50 by $6.50, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is $325. So the value of all the goods I have now, which is what I'll have in my balance, would be the 50 units I had before, because I still have this 50 units, right? And now, sorry, it's 100 units. February, I make a mistake. So it's not 325, it's 650. I made a mistake, my bad. Because February 4th, February 8th, we purchased 100 units at $6 each. I'm watching the wrong thing. So it's 600. I was watching March the 4th, my bad.
Yeah, I was watching that too.
Yeah. So the balance, I have 50 units at $5 each for 250. And then I have the 100 units that I just bought at $6 for 600. So if I take them at the total value of my stock right now, it would be 600 plus 250. Because I have 50 that worth 250 and I have 100 that is worth 600. So far, so good?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so not to confuse myself, I put a line to separate these again. Then on the 4th of March, this is when I buy the 50 at 650. 4th of March, I purchase 50 units at $6.50, which will come up to 325. Now that I purchase even more goods, the value of all my goods now would be the 50 I had before at $5, the 100 I bought second, and I just bought 50 more that were 325. So the total value would be this 250 plus this 600 plus this 325. If I had to get the value of all my goods right now, I'll add that up together, right?
Yeah.
Following still?
Yeah.
Now here's where things change. April, I sold 80 units at $10 per unit. That $10 is the selling price. How much I sold the units for. As of right now, I don't care about the selling price. I just want to know the value of the goods that I have in stock now. So, on the 8th of April, when I sold those goods, if I'm using FIFO, first in, first out, it means the first set of goods that I bought is the first set of goods I'm going to sell. What's the first set of goods I bought, or the first set of goods I had, based on what I have here?
50 units for
Mhm.
$5 each.
Right, so I'm going to issue that 50 units at $5 each. So I sold that. But it's 80 I sold in all, right? So how much more do I need? If it's 80 I sold, there's only 50 I take. How much more
I
needs to make
think,
up the 80?
I think I did the date wrong.
No,
Date,
you did it correct. April 21st.
yeah.
Yeah. So I sold 50 so far, but remember it's 80 and all that selling. So how much more do I need?
Basically.
30, right?
Yeah.
That 30 will come from the second set of goods. Which one was the second set of goods?
100.
At how much per unit? The 100 is at how much per unit? The $6, right? You see that? The 100 at $6 per unit.
Yeah.
Right. So now my balance, I just sold this first 50, so that 50 gone. And I sold 30 from the 100. So how much I remain with from the 100?
70.
70 units at $6 each, which will be 420. And then I still have my 50 units from before. The 50 units at $6.50 each. That one wasn't sold yet. So if I needed to get the value of my goods now, I would add up the 420 and the 325. Following so far?
Yeah.
Mhm. 19th of May, I purchased 90 units at $7. 90 units at $7, which will be how much? 630.
Yeah.
So now my balance would be the 70 from before, then the 50, and now the 90 at 7. And now finally, it's time to sell again. This time on the 30th, we sold 100 units. So I'll come here. Which one did I sell from first? If it's first in, first out.
The 70.
Mm-hmm. The 70. But it's 100 I sell. So how much more do I need?
Um,
If it's 100 I sell, and I sell is 100 I sold in all, I just get 70.
so 30 more.
Right. And where would I take the 30 from?
The 90.
What's the number? Is it we're going in order? First in, first out. We just took from the 70. So what will be the next in line?
50.
The 50. So taking the 30 from the 50. So this 30 will be sold at $6. And well, the cost of this 30 will be $6.50. Which would be 195. So now my balance, I sold this 70, so that's 70 gone. I sold 30 from that 50. So how much remains?
Say that one more time, sorry.
I sold, now to get my balance, I sold the 70, so that's 70 gone. And then I sold 30 from the 50. So how much remains?
20.
Mm-hmm.
20.
Correct. 20 at $6.50, which would be 130. And then I still have this 90 from before. So the total value of my goods as at the 30th of June, because that was the last transaction, would be 630 plus 130. $760. Think you understand?
Yeah, more or less.
Right. That is FIFO. First in, first out. Now, before I move on to LIFO, just want to show you some things that you can calculate using this, right? If I needed to calculate my total purchases, I would just come in the receipts column and I add this together. Simple as that. Because that's the value of all my purchases. I purchased six on the 8th, on the 4th of March, and the 19th of May. So my total purchases would equal 600 plus 325 plus 630, which will equal to $1,500. 555. If I needed opening stock, I would just come here. The stock that I started off the year with. The 50 units at $5 each, 250. That would be my opening stock. Or opening inventory, whichever one you want to call it. And then my closing inventory, the value of my stock at the end of the year, would be this 760. And then lastly, I could calculate my sales. My sales would be 80 units at $10 each, 80 by 10, plus 100 units at $11 each. $80 units by 10 is 800. And then 11 by 100 is 1,100. Add them up. My total sales is 1,900. Now, what I want you to pay attention as well, sometimes in the issued, instead of cost per unit, they might have selling price. If they have selling price, you just put the selling price that they have here instead, right? Under the issued. Everything else will remain the same. Now, with this information here, I could actually do a trading account. Huh? I have my sales, 1,900. So, name of company, trading account, for the period, and then today to June. I have my sales, which is 1,900. And I can calculate my cost of goods sold. I have opening stock, I have my purchases, and I'm closing stock. So that's cost of goods sold, opening stock. That will be the 250. I had purchases, which would be 1,555, less closing stock, which is the 760. 250 plus 1,555 minus 760 will give us a cost of goods sold of 1,045. And you subtract that and you get a gross profit. So they could actually bring a question like this, where they ask you to calculate, to ask you to do FIFO, and then from FIFO, they ask you to do a trading account. So your gross profit will be 855. So this is a possibility, right? Just showing it. Now let's do the same thing that we just did, but instead of doing LIFO, instead of doing FIFO, sorry, we're going to do LIFO. So deleting all these things we have here. LIFO stands for last in, first out. The last set of goods to come in is the first set of goods to go out. So the last set of goods to come in is what we selling first. All right, so let's take a look. The first set of things will be the same. You start off with your opening balance, 50 units at $5 per unit. First of Jan balance, 50 units at $5 per unit, 250. Just like before, right? You purchase 100 units at $6 per unit. You record that on the receipts. So now your balance is the 50 units you had before, plus the 100 units you just purchased. Then in March, you purchase 50 more units at $6.50 per unit. You record that on the receipts. And now your balance is the balance of 50 that you started off with, plus the 100 you bought in February, plus the 50 you just bought, right? So that stays the same. Where it starts to change is when it's time to sell. So you sold 80 units. According to last in, first out, the last set of goods to come in is the first set of goods to go out. Which one was the last set of goods to come in?
The 50,
At how much?
6.5.
All right. So we're going to sell that first. So it's 80 we selling. We'll sell that 50 first. So 21st of April. We sell 50 at the $6.50 for 325. But it's 80 now we selling, right? So after we sell that 50, how much more do we need to make up
30.
30? And where we'll take that 30 from?
The 100.
All right. So we will sell the 30 at the $6 per unit for 600. Well, not 600, but for 180. 6 trees are 18. So that will leave us with the 50 at $5 each for 250. And we'll have 70 remaining from the $6 one. So 70 at $6 for 420. Then 19th of May, we purchased 90 units at $7 each. We record that just like the last time. 19th of May, it'll go on the receipts. 90 units, $7 each. Which will be 630. So now our balance would be the 50 from before at $5 each. Then the 70 at $6. And then the 90 that we just bought. You following, right?
Yeah.
And now, when it's time to sell on the 30th, so 30th of June, we're going to sell from the last set of goods first. What was the last set of goods to come in now?
90 at $7.
So that gone. How much more do we need to make up the 100?
10.
Where we getting that 10 from?
From the 50.
What's the last set of goods to come in? No, we going in order.
70, 70.
All right. So it'll be 10 and $6 each for 60. So now our balance We still have the 50, because that 50 ain't get touched. And we take 10 from the 70. So how much we remain with?
60.
60 at $6 each for 360. So if someone was to ask for our closing stock balance now, I would add the 250 to the 360, and that would give us $610. So you notice the closing stock balance is different under LIFO. So it does make a difference, right? Before it was 760, now it's 610. You see that?
Yeah.
Now, if I was to do the trading account, everything would remain the same except the closing inventory. The closing inventory will no longer be 760, to be 610. Sales would remain the same, opening stock would remain the same, purchases would remain the same. The only thing changes is the value of the closing stock. So when I'm calculating my cost of goods sold, it will now be opening stock of 250, add purchases of 1,555, but now the closing stock and minus will be 610, which will make my cost of goods sold 1,195, and that will make my gross profit 705. So it changes it because the value of the closing stock changes. So when I say stock valuation is just a method to get the how much the stock is worth, this is what I mean. Under FIFO, the value of our stock was 760 at the end of the transactions. Under LIFO, which is a different method to value your stock, the value of the stock was now 610. So the method that you choose to value your stock determines the value of your stock. It will change based on which method you're using. In other words, one of the main reasons we're doing all of this is to get this. How much our closing stock is worth. You think you understand LIFO and FIFO?
Yeah.
Right. Let's take a look at AVCO now. AVCO it takes a completely different approach than LIFO and FIFO. So because of that, it gives the illusion that it's hard to understand. But notice I said illusion, right? AVCO means average cost. So all you're literally doing is finding the average cost of all the goods you purchased. And that's its value. So to do this one, we had to go back a bit further. We'll go all the way to the second transaction. Right, so Jan remains the same. On the 1st of Jan, we started off with 50 units at $5 each for 250. And then in February, we purchased 100 units at $6 each for 650. For 600, sorry. Right here, the differences start immediately. So under AVCO, every time you purchase new goods, you calculate a new average cost. And to calculate average cost, you take your total cost and divide it by your total units. So my total cost is 850. My total units will be 50 plus 100, 150, which means my cost per unit will be 850 divided by 150. Total cost divided by total units. And that will be $5.67. So that's my cost per unit now. So when I purchase goods in March, quarter March, I purchase 50 units at $6.50 each for 325. Because I purchased more units, I have to calculate a new average cost. So my total units before was $150 at $5.67 for 850 total. And now I just bought 50 units at $6.50 each for 325. So I have to calculate a new average cost, which is my total cost divided by total units. So every time I purchase goods, a new set, I'm gonna have to do this. So my total cost will be 850 plus 325, 1,175. That's my total cost. And then I have to calculate my total units, which is 150 plus 50, that is 200. And then from that, I will use it to calculate my cost per unit or my average cost. So it'll be my total cost divided by my total units. 1,175 divided by 200, which is $5.88. That is my new cost per unit. You understand so far?
Yeah.
So when I sell the goods on April the 21st, I sell in 80 units. What put here, boy? AP8 equal R. Right. I'll be selling 80 units that cost me $5.88 each. Because that's my new average cost. For a total of $470.40. So now my balance, because I had 200 in total and I just sold 80, my balance will now be 120. So that's how much I have remaining at $5.88 because that's my latest cost per unit. And I'll multiply that to get my total cost. 120 by $5.88, $705.60. That is how you do average cost. Every time you purchase goods, you calculate a new average cost by taking a total cost and dividing it by your total units. So May the 19th, I'm purchasing more goods. I'm purchasing 90 units at $7 each, which will be 630. So now to calculate my new average cost, because as again, every time you purchase goods, you gotta calculate a new average cost, right? So I had 120 remaining, and then I just bought 90 more. So my average cost will be my total cost, which is 630 plus $705.60. That'll give me $1,335.60. And I'm going to divide it by my total units, which will be 120 plus 90. That's 210, right? So now we're going to take my total cost divided by my total units, and that'll give me my new average cost, $6.36. So when I finally sell my last set, June the 30th, I'll simply be selling 100 units that are worth $6.36 each. Which will give you a total of 636. Some technical difficulties here. Right, 636. So now, to calculate the value of my goods now, I would have the 210 that was worth, actually no, I would just have 110 remaining because it's 210 and I just sell 100 with $6.36, which would come up to $699.60. So that's how you do average cost. Every time you purchase a new set of goods, you calculate a new average cost. It doesn't matter if you purchase 5 goods in a row. Every time you purchase a new set of goods, you calculate a new average cost. And then when you sell goods, you just sell it from the total. So here in March, I had 200 goods in total. And then in April, I sold 80. I just selling 80 from that 200. So I'll remain with 120, valued at whatever the latest average cost was. Then I purchase a next set of goods after calculating the new average cost. And when I sell them, I'll just sell it from the total, and what I remain with will be valued at whatever the latest average cost was. So again, you see under average cost, the closing stock is different. You see that? We get a different, we get a different one for each one. But the opening stock remains the same, your total purchases remain the same, your sales remain the same. The only thing is changing is your closing stock, because the stock valuation is different methods to get a value for your closing stock. So in this situation, my closing stock will be $699.60. So if I was to calculate my profit, when it's time to minus closing stock, I'll be minusing $699.60, which would make my cost of goods sold $699.6. That'll make my cost of goods sold $1,105.40. And then I'll subtract that from my sales, and that will give me a gross profit, $794.60. So that's how you do FIFO, LIFO, and AVCO. You think you understand it a little better now?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, great.